There's a creature sitting at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean right now as you watch this video. It has been sitting in the exact same spot in total darkness for probably years. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful, and something is being dissolved alive inside of it. This is not a plant. This is not a coral. This is not a decoration. This is one of the most efficient killing machines ever discovered on Earth, and it looks like something you'd find in a music store. Scientists found it in 2012 in the pitch-black mud at the bottom of the ocean, and when they saw the footage from the underwater camera, they genuinely did not know what they were looking at until they zoomed in. And then they realized everything they thought they knew about sponges was completely wrong. Stay with me, because this story gets so much weirder than you think. It's 2012. Off the coast of Northern California, a team from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, MBARI, is running a deep-sea drone called an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. This particular ROV is named Doc Ricketts, which is a great name for something that goes poking around in place it probably shouldn't. The ROV is being sent down to the Monterey Canyon and the Escanaba Ridge. These are geological features on the seafloor, basically enormous underwater cliffs and volcanic ridges sitting in total darkness under crushing pressure. How much pressure? Let me put this in terms you can actually feel. The document I've been going through for this video, a scientific breakdown of deep-sea biology, explains it this way. Hydrostatic pressure in the deep ocean increases by roughly 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of depth. By the time you get to 3,300 meters, which is where Doc Ricketts is going, the pressure bearing down on everything is over 330 atmospheres. That's roughly 4,900 pounds pressing on every single square inch of surface. A car crusher operates at about 150 to 200 atmospheres, so we're talking about pressures that make a car crusher look like a gentle squeeze. And it's not just pressure. At this depth, there is zero sunlight, none. It is absolute total darkness, the kind of dark where your eyes don't adjust because there is literally nothing to adjust to. The temperature hovers just above freezing, around 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Now here's the thing about this environment that most people don't realize. The deep sea is not just dark and cold, it is also starving. The document I referenced explains that the entire ecosystem down there depends on what scientists call marine snow. That's the technical term for the slow, constant rain of dead organic matter, dead plankton, fish feces, decomposing bodies that drifts down from the ocean's surface above. It is the only food source the entire deep sea ecosystem gets, and only about 5% of the energy produced at the surface ever makes it down to these depths. 5%. That means every creature living at 3,000 meters is fighting over the scraps of 5% of whatever was happening miles above their heads. That single fact explains everything that's about to happen, because when food is almost non-existent, evolution gets creative. Evolution gets brutal. The ROV's lights cut through the darkness. The seafloor appears below the camera. Soft, muddy sediment. Nothing looks like anything in particular. And then one of the research technicians on the ship, a guy named Lonnie Lunston, notices something on his monitor. A shape, symmetrical, almost architectural. He guides the drone closer, and there it is, rising out of the mud like it was designed by someone. A structure of perfect, elegant vertical branches connected by horizontal bars, like a harp, like a candelabra, like something translucent and delicate that has absolutely no business being this far down in the ocean. It is glowing faintly in the ROV's lights, and it is completely still. Lunston and his team have found exactly 2 specimens this size. The rest they can only see on video. They carefully collect them and bring them to the surface. That's when things get genuinely unsettling. Here is what the harp sponge actually is. Its full scientific name is Chondrocladia lyra. Lyra means harp, and yes, it was named that because it looks exactly like one. The structure it grows in is called a vein. Each vein is basically a horizontal bar with several vertical branches sticking straight up. One animal can have anywhere from 1 to 6 of these veins radiating out from its center, arranged in perfect geometric symmetry. The whole thing can grow up to about 37 centimeters. That's roughly the size of a large ruler. Not massive, but remember, for a sponge, that's enormous, and it's anchored to the seafloor by what scientists describe as a rhizoid, a root-like structure that grabs into the soft mud and holds the sponge in place. Now, here's where you need to stop and really think about what you're looking at. Those beautiful vertical branches, those elegant translucent fingers reaching up into the water column. Every single millimeter of them is covered with microscopic hooks, not metaphorical hooks, literal physical hooked structures called spicules, tiny glass-like spines made of silica, the same material as glass and sand. And they are shaped and arranged so that they work exactly like Velcro. Every branch of this sponge is a Velcro trap. Now, in the deep ocean, there are tiny crustaceans drifting through the water, copepods, amphipods, little shrimp-like animals, some barely a few millimeters long. They float and drift with the weak deep-sea currents, searching for food. And the harp sponge just waits. It doesn't chase, it doesn't lure, it doesn't do anything. It just holds its branches out in the current. A tiny crustacean drifts past. Maybe it's navigating by pressure changes in the water. Maybe it brushes against one of the branches by accident. Maybe it's attracted to the faint chemical signals the sponge might put out. Scientists aren't entirely sure yet, but the moment it makes contact with any part of those branches, those microscopic Velcro hooks catch on the tiny bristles and legs of the crustacean's body, and it is stuck completely, immediately, permanent. Now here's the part that I think is the most viscerally disturbing thing in this entire story. The sponge does not have a mouth. It has no stomach. It has no digestive tract. So how does it eat what it just caught? The sponge sends its own cells. When prey makes contact with those hooks, specialized cells inside the sponge, called archaeocytes, detect what has happened and start migrating toward the capture site. They travel through the sponge's body towards the crustacean, and then, slowly, they begin to envelop it. The sponge wraps a thin digestive membrane around the animal while it is still alive and still moving, and then it begins secreting digestive enzymes directly onto the living prey from the outside in. Research on related carnivorous sponge species shows that this entire digestion process, from capture to complete absorption, takes anywhere from 8 to 10 days. 10 days of slow external dissolution from the inside of a living animal outward, and the sponge just sits there, looking beautiful, completely still, playing its music that no one can hear. I genuinely think this is one of the most sinister things in nature, not because it's violent. It's actually one of the most passive killings in the ocean, but because of the contrast, something that looks like elegant decorative glasswork, quietly dissolving living things in total darkness at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Okay, but let's zoom out, because this is actually the most fascinating part. Why does this exist? Why does a sponge, an animal that for 500 million years has basically just been a wet filter, suddenly become a Velcro murder trap? The answer comes back to that 5% number. The deep sea is one of the most nutrient-starved environments on the planet. The document I've been referencing explains it perfectly. Only 5% of all the energy generated by photosynthesis on the ocean's surface makes it down to the bathylegic depths. The rest is consumed before it ever reaches that far. That means most sponges, which feed by filtering bacteria and tiny organic particles out of the water they pump through their bodies, simply cannot get enough food this deep. The water is too clean, too empty. There's nothing in it worth filtering. So evolution presented the ancestral version of this sponge with a choice: adapt or die. The solution: stop filtering, start catching. Here is the horrifying engineering of how the harp sponge's body works in this context. Normal sponges have what's called an aquiferous system, basically a network of canals and chambers that pull water in, filter it, and push it back out. That system is the entire reason sponges exist. It's their whole identity. Carnivorous sponges like Chondroclaudia lyra have lost that system almost entirely. They've abandoned the thing that made them sponges. Instead, they replaced it with hooks and a digestive membrane. Think about how long that evolutionary process took. Tens of millions of years of getting incrementally better at catching things. Scientists believe carnivorous sponges as a group have been around for at least 60 million years, but here's what makes the harp sponge specifically more impressive than other carnivorous sponges: its shape. The researchers at MBARI think the harp structure, all those vertical branches and horizontal bars, evolved specifically to maximize the amount of surface area the sponge can expose to passing currents. More surface area equals more chances of contact. More contact equals more catches. And crucially, more catches means enough energy to survive in a place where food only comes in 5% of what exists above. It is the deep sea equivalent of building a bigger net, except the net is your own body, and it dissolves whatever touches it. Now here's a detail that breaks my brain a little bit. Those swollen balls at the very tips of each branch, those aren't part of the trap. Those are the reproductive ones. Each of those tiny balls is producing packets of sperm called spermatophores. The harp sponge releases these packets into the current where they drift to other harp sponges nearby and fertilize their eggs. So those branches are simultaneously doing two jobs, catching and killing prey and broadcasting sperm across the seafloor. The same Velcro hooks that trap crustaceans also catch the sperm packets drifting from neighboring sponges. The harp sponge is a trap, a factory, and a dating app all at once. Let's go back to 2012 for a second, because the discovery story itself wild. The MBRI team collected just 2 physical specimens during this entire research voyage. Everything else they know about the harp sponge comes from video footage. They saw about 10 individuals total on camera across multiple ROV dives. 2 you can hold, 10 you can only watch through a screen. That's how rare direct scientific contact with these things is. The first specimens the team found had only 2 veins, the basic 2-sided harp shape. It was only on later dives, as they searched the same area more thoroughly, that they started finding individuals with 3, 4, 5, and even 6 veins radiating outward in perfect symmetry. Those 6-vein individuals look less like a harp and more like an elaborate snowflake or a 6-armed candelabra. The largest recorded specimen grew to nearly 60 centimeters. That's almost 2 feet tall, sitting in total darkness in near freezing water, under 330 atmospheres of crushing pressure, quietly dissolving whatever drifts into it. And here's the thing that really puts this into perspective. The harp sponge was officially described and named in a paper published in a journal called Invertebrate Biology in 2012. It was listed among the top 10 new species of 2013, selected by the International Institute for Species Exploration out of more than 140 nominated species worldwide that year. Think about that. There were more than 140 new species nominated that year, and the harp sponge made the top 10. It was considered one of the most significant animal discoveries on Earth in that 12-month period. And yet, most people have never heard of it because it lives in a place that costs millions of dollars to reach, in a craft that can be destroyed by the pressure if anything goes wrong, operated remotely by teams of scientists thousands of miles away from the animal they're studying. The deep ocean, specifically the bathypelagic zone that the document I referenced describes as the midnight zone from 1,000 to 4,000 meters, is fundamentally the most difficult ecosystem to study on the entire planet, and we have barely scratched it. The harp sponge is not alone in what it does or in what it represents. The deep ocean is full of creatures that have been forced into evolutionary strategies that make absolutely no sense on the surface world, but are perfectly logical in the abyss. The document I used for this video is a detailed breakdown of deep-sea shark evolution, and it makes the point that in the deep ocean, the entire rulebook gets rewritten. Deep-sea sharks carry livers that make up 35% of their total body weight, because that's the only way to achieve buoyancy without a swim bladder, and a swim bladder would get crushed instantly at those pressures. The Greenland shark lives for over 500 years. The goblin shark can fire its jaw out of its skull like a slingshot. The cookie cutter shark once confused US Navy submarine sonar domes for whale blubber and chewed through the rubber coverings, causing enough damage to render the sonar systems useless, which the Navy initially believed was a clandestine Soviet weapon. The deep ocean is doing things that surface biology cannot imagine, and the harp sponge is one of the clearest examples of why. It evolved in a place where every single adaptation must be extraordinarily efficient because there is no margin for waste. Every calorie
caught is a calorie that keeps the animal alive. The harp shape maximizes surface area for catching. The Velcro hooks maximize the chance of a successful grab. The digestive membrane maximizes how completely the prey can be broken down and absorbed. Even reproduction is piggybacked onto the same structure that captures food. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is redundant. Everything has a purpose. And that's actually the most chilling thing about Chondrocladia lyra. Not that it kills in such a quiet and patient way. Here is a thought I want to. Sponges are some of the oldest animals on Earth. There is fossil evidence suggesting that sponges existed over 600 million years ago. They were around before fish, before insects, before plants colonized the land, before almost anything we recognize as life figured out what it wanted to be. For most of that half-billion-year history, sponges were passive, peaceful, sitting there and letting the ocean bring food to them one bacterium at a time. And then, in some ancestral deep-sea species, something changed. The food got too scarce. The competition got too intense, and evolution said no more filtering, start catch. And over millions of generations, something that could not move, could not see, could not hear, had no brain, no nervous system, and no digestive tract, figured out how to become a predator. Not a fast predator, not a dramatic predator, a slow, patient, architectural predator, one that solves the problem of hunting not by moving faster, but by becoming a better trap. I think that is one of the most remarkable things evolution has ever produced, not because it's violent, but because it's a solution that an engineer or architect might design. Maximize surface area, minimize energy expenditure, let the environment do the work. Harp sponge sits in darkness 11,000 feet underwater, plays no music, has no thoughts, and has absolutely no idea it exists. And it is better at its job than almost anything else in the ocean. We have explored maybe 20% of the ocean floor, maybe. The bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone between 1,000 and 4,000 meters, covers a significant portion of this planet. We have barely skimmed the surface of it. We have sent ROVs to parts of it. We have sampled it. We have occasionally found things like the harp sponge staring back at us from the mud. But the deep ocean is not empty. It is packed with life that has been adapting to pressure and starvation for hundreds of millions of years, completely independent of anything happening above. There are almost certainly creatures down there right now that would rewrite whole chapters of what we think we understand about biology. Creatures that look like art installations and eat things alive. Creatures that haven't been seen yet because no one has sent a drone to that particular patch of seafloor. The harp sponge was sitting in that mud, doing exactly what it does for millions of years before Lonnie Lunston guided Doc Ricketts down there in 2012 and put a light on it. It didn't need us to find it. It was fine. It still is. Right now, as you close this app or this tab or this video, there is a harp sponge sitting at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, total darkness, under 330 atmospheres of pressure in near freezing water, and something is being dissolved inside it, and it is absolutely beautiful. If you want more content about the things living in parts of the ocean that no human has ever physically seen, subscribe and hype, because I promise you, the harp sponge is not even close to the strangest thing down there.